It's Saturday, November 20th, 2021. Earlier today, I was just doing a little bit of thinking, and I don't know about you, but it seems like they're pouring gasoline on a fire with this economy. This is the most bizarre economy I've ever seen. I think it's probably the most bizarre and dangerous economy America has ever seen. Yesterday, the House passed this massive social safety net climate bill for $1.7 trillion. Now it has to go to the Senate. It will pass, maybe not for 1.7, maybe it'll be 1.5. They'll probably trim some of the fat off of it, but nonetheless, it's going to be well over $1 trillion. We just passed the infrastructure bill for $1.2 trillion. Now we have another bill that has just been passed by the House last night for $1.7 trillion. We are throwing around trillions of dollars like it's candy. We are the largest debtor nation on planet Earth. We have nearly $30 trillion of federal debt. We have around $170 trillion of unfunded liabilities right here in America. We have roughly 24 million people in this country who are food insecure. And we just passed another $1.7 trillion in a social safety climate bill. So, love to know your thoughts on that. Please comment down below. But regarding this bill last night, just a little bit that's in this bill should really concern you. $65 billion will go towards public housing. This means the government will be buying bad debt and distressed properties. And this adds up to hundreds of thousands of units, homes, apartments, hotel rooms, you name it. And I think this is a bit concerning when you have a government coming into the housing market buying up hundreds of thousands of units. $25 billion. $25 billion for federal housing vouchers. $1 billion will go to rent assistance. $15 billion for the Housing Trust Fund. $1.75 billion for unlocking the Possibilities Program. They're going to be using your tax money to acquire your home. This, I mean, this should really scare people, in my humble opinion. This, we already know. We've seen institutional money come into these markets. Now we're going to have more federal money coming into these markets. And what's very scary is here, we're heading into a Great Depression, ladies and gentlemen. We have over a million homes in forbearance. Now people with that expiring, how many people are going to be able to keep their homes? We got a massive eviction crisis taking place right now. There's going to be a lot more distressed property out there. And you've got institutional money gobbling it up. And now you're going to have government money coming in and gobbling it up too. While people lose their jobs or decide not to go back to work, as people lose homes, this is an absolute recipe for disaster. We have people who refuse to go to work. We have people who are going to work but losing their jobs. 4.4 million people quit their jobs last month. The jobs that are out there mainly are low-paying, low-wage jobs, and we have massive inflation. And the inflation, they're already telling you, is going to be worse in 2022. So out here, if you want to buy super unleaded gas, a gallon will cost you $5.19. $6 in LA. The average person is literally being suffocated here. And many people are going to be losing their homes. Wall Street will buy it. The government will buy it. You, on the other hand, you're either going to be homeless or maybe you'll be lucky enough to rent your own home back from the government or from some institution on Wall Street. Article today on The Hedge. Bill Ackerman says we're in a classic bubble that's fueled by the Fed. Bill Ackerman manages billions of dollars in his hedge fund. He's warning that the state of the market is in trouble. And I think, we need to pay attention to that. But I know most people will just listen to the person on one of these business channels. They'll listen to an economist or an analyst wearing a $2,000 suit on CNBC or Fox Business. But Bill Ackerman has been sounding the alarm here, and there's been some very intelligent people, very wealthy people sounding that alarm, warning of a very serious red flag here. He says every indicator is flashing red. He said talking about rising prices across asset classes. He said inflation is the biggest risk for his hedge fund this year and predicts the Fed will raise interest rates soon. What is soon? By the end of the year, early next year? It's coming, ladies and gentlemen. There are people out there 6 months ago that said that the Fed could never raise rates. The debt's too big. They're going to raise interest rates in 2022. No doubt about it. Now, will it be the first quarter of 2022, the second quarter? I don't know. But I would not doubt that it will be the first quarter of 2022 that we see the first rate increase. And the next question is, what will that increase be? Will it be 25 basis points, a half a point, 1 point? I don't know that number, but whatever the number, it is going to have a dramatic effect on Wall Street. It's going to have a dramatic effect on these markets, and not for the positive. It is going to hurt the stock market. Look, we have a stock market bubble, a bond bubble. We have a housing bubble. We have so many bubbles, ladies and gentlemen. We have a derivatives market bubble. If you are not out of your coma right now and paying attention to what is going on, you are going to be a victim of this economy. And it doesn't care who you are, where you're from, how much money you have, what neighborhood, what zip code, what kind of car you drive. When this market implodes, it is going to take a lot of people down with them, and people are going to have a very, very hard time adjusting to their new standard of living. So protect what wealth you have right now. It's a Saturday evening. You could go out. You could buy some extra food, some water. Did you order some gold? Did you order some silver? What are you doing to protect yourself? Do you have extra gasoline? Make sure your automobile's in good shape. Do you have extra vitamins, some protein powder, a trauma kit, some Band-Aids? Just think outside of the box right now, things that you may need. Because look, we know that cyber attacks are coming. We know that a grid's going to go down at some point, and we know already that the economy is imploding. Now, we're going to see other events unfold with this collapsing economy. So be ready for that. Another article today. No turning point yet. Soaring food inflation to continue into 2022. Judy Gaines, the president of J. Gaines Consulting, said on Bloomberg Television yesterday, rising food prices will continue into the middle of next year. I think they're going to continue beyond next year. She blames labor shortages, adverse weather conditions, and soaring transportation costs. One thing that nobody is blaming, the analysts and the hosts of those business channels wearing the $2,000-$3,000 suits and the fancy ties, nobody is blaming the printing of money. How about that? You know why we have 110 cargo ships out at Long Beach trying to get unloaded right now? Because we don't make anything. All right. So we are printing up all this money and we're giving it to people so that they can buy products made in other countries. We are printing a load of money to try to kickstart this economy, which didn't last very long. Sending money directly into people's checking accounts. Yeah, it was a nice sugar high, but it didn't work. Now we're deeper in debt, and now people feel the hangover from this sugar high. So we're printing all this money, and that means that we're going to pay more for food. We're going to pay more for gasoline. We're going to pay more for a shirt, more for a pair of shoes. We're going to pay more for literally everything because we continue to print money. This helicopter money, this quantitative easing is completely blowing up in the face of the Fed. And who's going to pay the price? You and I, every time we go to the store, every time we go to get gasoline, every time we pull our wallets out to use a piece of plastic or cash, it's buying less and less. But look, we can blame it on labor shortages. We can blame it on weather. We can blame it on transportation. We can blame it on Santa Claus, okay? But what we better start blaming it on, and I'm not saying that none of this has nothing to do with it. It does. But the biggest contributor to all this is the massive money printing. That's why we are seeing soaring prices. Used car prices explode to new record high. That's the hedge today. Car prices rose 4.9% in the first 15 days of this month, ladies and gentlemen. Used car prices are up 44.9% from last November. Somebody please tell me how people are keeping up with all this. You go out to dinner for two people, it's easily $40, $50, $60. You go to lunch at a fast food restaurant, it's $10, $12 easily. $5.19 for super unleaded yesterday. And you look at the price of rent, you look at the price to buy a home right now, and you look at the price to buy a used car. This is purely nuts. The working poor who've had their credit scores tarnished during the downturn will feel the burden of pricier used cars. People's incomes will be heavily weighted to servicing car payments. You know, when you have a $500, $600, $800, $1,000 car payment, this starts taking a toll. But when you look at the price, the average price of a used car now, what is it, $26,000, $27,000? That's the average price of a used car. I mean, your car payment easily could be $400, $500. You got insurance. People are beginning to realize they're going to have to cut things out of their lives, like going out to dinner and that $40 or $50 or $60 expense. That's getting cut out. Going to the mall to go buy a pair of jeans or a pair of shoes, that's going to get cut out. Ordering things on Amazon, that's beginning to get cut out. How about this? Rental car companies, for the first time, have become major buyers of used cars at auction. They used to be big sellers at the auctions. Now that is completely turned around. They're big buyers. So now that we're all competing against institutional money to buy a house, now you're all competing against major car rental companies at the auctions buying up these cars to put in their fleet. So I'm sure that that is going to have a effect on the price of used cars when you have major rental car companies coming into these auctions and buying them up. Jim Grant, the Fed reminds me of a spectator on the wrong side of the market. Jim Grant, editor of Jim Grant's Interest Rate Observer, warns of rampant speculation in the stock market. He worries that the central banks are underestimating the threat of persistently high inflation and explains why gold has a bright future. This was on the Hedge today. If you have a few minutes, check it out. Remember, always do your own homework, do your own due diligence. I bring this article up because I think it's very, very important. Again, I think that not just the Fed, but I think a lot of people, friends of yours, friends of mine, the average consumer, I think are really underestimating the threat of this inflation. Now, of course, people on the television are telling you and I that it's temporary, it's transitory. By early next year, it'll be gone. Some saying next month it could be gone. You and I all know it's not going to be gone, and it's not going to be gone next year. In fact, I believe, just like many of you believe, it's going to soar next year. The Fed reminds me of a speculator on the wrong side of the market, he says. It's like pouring gasoline on a fire. The 10-year Treasury note is yielding around 1.5% despite the measured rate of inflation being currently in excess of 5% year over year, and the increase in producer prices is even greater. So the bond market, like the Fed, is making a big bet on this notion of a transitory inflation that is all about the shortage of goods and services rather than the excess of purchasing power. Investors are betting the central banks are in control and that low interest rates will prove persistent and that everything is fine. One is advised to take out insurance on this big bet being wrong. Well, I can tell you I'm taking out insurance. My insurance is gold, ladies and gentlemen. And I know that a lot of you out there are doing the same thing, gold, silver. Look, I don't give financial advice, but reading this article right here, okay, take it as a warning of what's to come. And make sure that you're taking out insurance. A lot of people continue to ask me where I'm buying gold, where my recommendations are. I have a link down below, SD Bullion. I've been dealing with them for over 2 years. I know many of you were dealing with them before me. So if you're looking for a reputable place, go to the link down below, SD Bullion. They're fantastic and reputable and very competitive with prices. Again, one is advised to take out insurance on this big bet being wrong. Now look, nobody's 100% here, but I think we can connect the dots, ladies and gentlemen. This is not only the biggest bubble, the biggest bubbles, plural, that we've ever seen in history, okay? And we're living in history right now, and they're going to burst. And if you don't have insurance, you're going to be in big trouble. The Fed has been buying $120 billion of bonds and mortgage-backed securities per month. Buying all these securities and turning these securities into dollars is pouring gasoline on a fire. They are devaluing the dollar. They are devaluing your purchasing power. This is why you have to have hard, tangible financial assets like gold and silver, the two most undervalued assets on planet Earth right now. Look, as I've said in the past, if you have the means to gamble in these markets and you have the means to gamble in cryptos, God bless you. No, if you feel like gambling and you can afford to gamble, hey, gamble. But make sure before you gamble that you have insurance, that you have the food, the water, the gold, the silver, the cash, and most of all, get the debts paid off. And if you've done all that and you're out gambling, hey, have fun, have a blast. I hope you make money. Jim Grant was asked, when will gold shine? He said this: gold is not what cryptos are. It's not what NFTs are. It's not what Tesla is. It is outside of a raging speculation, and I think it will come into its own raging speculation when the great speculative episode called the Everything Bubble bursts. So that's Jim Grant. I've watched him on many interviews. Very, very sharp guy, very, very smart. But again, you need to be protecting yourselves. You need to be insuring yourselves. If you want to gamble in these markets and you can afford to gamble in these markets, if you can afford to gamble in the cryptos, great. But make sure before you do any type of gambling, before you go to Vegas, make sure that the debts are paid down. Make sure you have gold, silver, food, water, security, okay? This is so important. Almost 9 in 10 Americans worried about inflation. They're concerned about food, energy, and shelter costs. Well, they should be. Because it's about to go much higher. Now that we're beginning to see the repercussions of all this money printing, all the quantitative easing, the 0% interest rates, people are beginning to have a difficult time dealing with day-to-day life, trying to hold on to that middle-class lifestyle, that standard of living. And it is going to become more and more difficult to hang on to that standard of living as we go into 2022. People are going to go broke just to try and stay middle class. As I make this video today, my advice is, look, right now is the time to downsize. Right now, if you are really suffering, if you're struggling, maybe it's time to move back in with parents or family members. People are going to have to eat their pride. You got to do right now what you got to do to save money. You got to do what you got to do to pay off the debt. Living at your $4,000 a month condo in Irvine, or your $5,000 a month 2-bedroom condo in LA, this is not going to help you during this decline, it is what it's going to do is it's going to pull you under. Right now, you want to get as agile and as light as you can. You want to get rid of as much debt as you can. People living in a 5-bedroom house when it's just 2 people, just the excess bedrooms that you're paying on that you're not getting any return on, driving cars just to impress people at the stop sign that you don't even know. We have this ego now in America where everybody's trying to impress people they know or they don't know, trying to impress people they don't even like, trying to impress family members. And this is going to be the fall of so many people. This is going to be the collapse of so many people because the cars, the college tuition debt, the rent, the credit card debt, everything is in a frenzy now. I watch some of these videos on the expensive watches, the luxury watch market, and I see this trend now, this frenzy with Rolex watches and so many others, and people just outbidding one another, overbidding on a watch. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot stress the importance of just being debt-free. Being debt-free is going to be an incredible asset to you, okay? The watch that you wear is not going to get you through the greatest collapse. It will have value, but everything is so overvalued now. People are literally paying twice the value for a house, twice the value for a watch, literally twice the value for a car now. It's ridiculous. And people cannot stop spending. And this is going to be the downfall of so many people. They never thought about inflation. They never thought about a rainy day. What are people going to do now that it's beginning to drizzle? Many people still spending. They're just putting it on payday loans. They're putting it on credit cards. They're continuing to acquire debt, believing that some miracle is going to take place and things are going to turn around. I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it will get much worse before it gets better. And as I leave you this evening, I want to close with one last article coming from The Hedge titled "Rolling Blackouts Possible in Texas, Midwest as Cold Blast Looms. Are you prepared?" We saw what happened in Texas. Check out Texas Silver, my good friend Aaron. Check out his channel, Texas Silver. He went through that freeze last year in Texas, but he survived it with no problem because he was prepared. And he's continuing on his videos at Texas Silver, talking about different ways to prepare. Highly recommend that you go over to his channel. But are you prepared in the Midwest? Are you prepared in Texas today? Because we could see a very, very cold, snowy winter. And we saw a lot of people lose their lives last winter in Texas because they thought that it could never get that bad. They never thought that they would get that type of winter, and they did. They got a Chicago winter in Texas, and they were completely taken by surprise. So there's so many things out there. Grids going down, cyber attacks, rolling blackouts, crazy weather, economic collapse, you name it. Are you prepared? Are you prepared to deal with all these things? Something's going to come out of left field, ladies and gentlemen, where you live. Are you prepared to deal with it? Let me tell you, if you have massive college tuition debt, you're leasing an $800 car, you're paying $3,000, $4,000 to rent a condo or pay for that mortgage, and you've got $15,000 in credit card debt, what's going to happen if you lose your job tomorrow? What happens if your spouse loses their job tomorrow? I'll tell you what's going to happen. Your life is going to go upside down. It's going to do a 180, and you're going to be completely unprepared because it may not be a grid down. It may not be an Arctic blast. It may not be a cyber attack, but it's going to be the worst event in your life. And because you have so much debt, you're not going to last very long. You make $100,000 a year, right now is the time to live like you make 50. You make 50,000, now's the time to live like you make 25. Again, if you got to eat your pride, drive a little bit lesser car, move back in with the parents, move in with a brother or sister, to get that debt paid off, you got to do what you got to do. You got to eat the pride. Too many people out there with this pride. Got to have the emblem on the car, got to have the perfect watch, got to have the perfect suit, got to have the perfect zip code. Nothing wrong with that. That's all great stuff. And we all aspire to have nice things. The problem is so many people that are acquiring these things, the zip codes, the cars, the watches, can't afford it. Can't afford it. But they're living like they can. And if you're one of those people living like you can, you're going to lose.